So this video is going to be a little bit quicker than some of my other ones because it's just a couple tips that I think you should know before we move on to the next thing. The most important things I'm going to talk about right now are templates. When you make art and just leave it in the world in core, it'll often be just white in your hierarchy, right? So if I go get a 3D object and I get a ball, put it in the world, and I look at it here in my hierarchy view, you can see that it's white. That's fine if it's just an art decorative object in the scene. I now have this ball, it exists, that's great. It's a very nice decoration. But if I want to be able to programmatically access this thing and spawn it into the world, it needs to be a template. I'm gonna make a ball collection. We're gonna put 3 balls together here. And say I want to be able to spawn this thing. I want a player to be able to buy it in a store, and then I want to give them this thing. To do that, it needs to be a template. You can just right click on anything and hit new template from object, but when you're working with a system like the farming framework, the sort of origin or pivot point, the center point of the object matters. And to control that, I go get a plane. I'll position this so that my objects are centered in it because I want this little center point of the object to be the intersection of all the arrows, to be at the bottom center for most things in the farming framework. So I'm just going to go like this so that I can just make sure. You can also right click and say look at object from top if you want to make sure that you have an accurate view. So that's how I want the center point of my object to exist. So this plane is not important. The only thing that's important is actually its location. So I'm just going to go new group. So that makes a new group under it. Then I'm going to pull out the group and 0 the transforms. So that gives me a group that's perfectly positioned where I want it to be. See, I deleted the plane because that was not what I wanted to make at all. Then I rename this and I call it ball group, I guess. Doesn't really matter. And we put all the balls inside of it. And then we hit right click and we hit new template from object. There we go. Now I have, even if I delete this one out of my scene, I can grab it from project content and pull out as many as I want to. But there's more that templates can do. Without de-instancing the template, you can make some changes. Let's find this one over here. I'm going to open it. I'm going to move just some of the pieces around. We'll just move it around so that you can see that it's shifted. I didn't de-instance it. I just moved these objects in the world. So now this template is essentially a template with a few changes. But if I pull a new ball out, it's not going to have those changes. Those changes are specific only to that one in the hierarchy. Likewise, if I change the name of that one, it doesn't have any effect on the other templates. The names here are the ones that are already in the hierarchy, just they don't affect anything. If you want to rename that ball group, you have to rename it here in your project content. Let's take a different one. Let's open one of the other ball groups, but this time let's de-instance it so we have more access to properties, and let's put a material on them. So that's now what our ball set looks like. Again, notice nothing else has changed, just that one. But if I go update template from object, that changed the one in the library, that changed the source or in your core project content. So that means everybody now has that change that I made. But notice this one still kept its position because that position is just for this one ball group moved instance that exists. But if I get out new copies of the ball group now, they'll all have the wood materials on them because I updated that template to have that change. The other thing to know about templates is that if I pull one out in the world here and I scale it and then I update the template from that, so I pulled that one out and it did have the big size, but if you look at it here at the scale, it says 2.8251. When you pull a template out programmatically and you spawn a template into the world, these external size changes won't come with it. If you spawned this into the farming framework, it would still be the small version of the ball. It would look like This message is not scary. It's just telling you that you have to scale all the axes at once. If you scale one of them, if you just hit OK, it'll do it for you. So if you actually spawn this template with code, you're going to get this. You're not going to get that big one. If you want to actually make the ball big so that even the spawned ones are big, you have to do it inside the template. So you either de-instance it or don't. You can go either way. The step that you can't skip is to go here to the top of the template and hit update template from object. That's again made them big, you can see there. Now any that I pull out are that size. So the important thing to understand here is that when templates are pulled out by code, they will have a scale of 1 and a rotation of 0, and they'll be in whatever position the code is putting them in. And that means that if you want to make changes to your templates, make it inside of the template, then right click and hit update template from object. So that's all I wanted to talk about templates, just like some explanation for players who are newer and might not be like, why isn't my icon size changing? Why is my crop the wrong size? That's normally a mismatch where you're trying to scale the outside of the template instead of going into the template and doing the scale changes there. Your templates, as a best practice, when they're saved to your thing, should have no rotation, no scale on here. These numbers should all be 0. Only position, because it has to exist somewhere in the world, it'll have a position number, but these other two, rotation and scale, should be zeroed out. 2 other really quick tips that don't have to do with templates, but I just want to call them out for newer users to core. If you somehow lose your viewport, like by doing this, but if you accidentally close one of these things, see, like that, and now like, oh no, I can't see, just go Window, Reset View to Default, and hit yes, and it'll put everything back for you, okay? And there's other windows here that you can open and close if you want community content or you want the event log. And then the other thing that I wanted to call out that might come up if you're a new user is the V key. It turns gizmo visibility on and off. Gizmos are these like little grabbable things where you can grab an object that doesn't really have a visual. So it's normally things like the letters there are the text. That's a world text element. If you put a trigger in the world and you see here's a light has one. So you can grab these things to grab onto them. But if you hit V, it'll hide all the triggers and all those gizmos. And mostly you want to work like this because it's annoying to have them visible all the time. But V is how you turn them on and off. That's it for this video, but we'll cover some more tips in the next one.